Hello, and welcome to How It's Done, a podcast about how real people do actual things to move their brands and their businesses forward. From the simplest of tactics to the most advanced tools and technologies, we go behind the buzzwords to understand the how. Have you ever seen or read or heard about someone or some company that did something really cool and you wondered, yeah, but how did they do it? Yeah, me too, so here we are. Are you curious? I'm about as curious as they come. So stick around, we'll be curious together, and I promise we'll learn stuff. How It's Done is brought to you by Fuoco, a marketing agency that knows when and how to ignite the spark. I'm Christy Goad, and I'll be your host. Hello, welcome to the show. In today's episode, I'm super excited to dive into philanthropy and do-goodery in the midst of COVID-19. Companies and their not-for-profit partners are getting creative in the new abnormal of COVID-19. They're doing this to ensure that they can still meet the very human need for philanthropy, corporate social responsibility, and people-powered do-goodery. In this episode of How It's Done, a podcast for curious marketers, we'll hear how Cand-Aid and one of its corporate partners are coupling social distancing with social responsibility to kick COVID in the can and bring a planned skateboard build to the do-gooders at one of the world's largest medical device manufacturers, despite the odds and circumstances being stacked against them. In today's episode, I'm super excited to be here with Diana Ralston, who is Executive Director of Cand-Aid. She'll tell us a little bit more about what Cand-Aid is here in a moment, and one of her corporate do-gooders, Elizabeth Bailey. Let's dive right in. Diana, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself and Cand-Aid?
Sure. I am the Executive Director of Cand-Aid, and we are a publicly funded national nonprofit based in Colorado. And we focus on people-powered do-goodery through towns, tunes, treads and trails, and Love Your Mama efforts nationwide. We had a ton of great momentum coming into 2020, had a fabulous staff retreat in January, and had a number of really fabulous corporate partners on board to help us with our programs. And then, as we all know, things kind of came to a grinding halt early in March. And so my team and I have been spending the past 8 weeks figuring out ways to still be impactful and continue moving our programs forward, sticking to our mission, but following and adhering to all of the social distancing regulations, the stay at home, the safer at home, the shelter in place, you name it. So we've been trying to get creative and figure out ways to continue our work, because just because there's a pandemic doesn't mean that people do not want to give back and make a difference.
And that's how we have Elizabeth with us today. Is that correct? What are we talking about today? And can you help us introduce Elizabeth Bailey?
Sure. So we've been fortunate, like I said, to have a number of really wonderful corporate partners that are philanthropic in nature. And Elizabeth and I actually had a ton of mutual friends. We didn't know each other, but we met through Cand-Aid and working with her corporation. And we had gotten the green light from Elizabeth. We were figuring out things that we were really, really excited about. It's actually going to be the largest scale program that Cand-Aid has ever implemented.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, we're going to build 1,500 skateboards, and typically our programs rally either community volunteers or corporate employees to come together and build skateboards or bicycles. That's through our Treads and Trails program. And then they're normally donated to entire grades, first graders for our bicycles and fourth and fifth graders for the skateboards. And we target Title I schools around the country. This is going to be different now because we have to get creative and figure out how to still do this while not gathering more than 10 people in a room and keeping people 6 feet apart and all of those things. And I can't think of a more creative and gung-ho partner than Elizabeth. And she and her team are just all about just still making things happen. And so it's actually been pretty fun for us trying to figure out, okay, there's a roadblock, here's a hurdle, how are we going to continue to move it forward?
Elizabeth Bailey is also with us. Can you tell us a little bit more about Cand-Aid?
Yeah, absolutely. So a few months ago, I received a call from one of our philanthropy directors in Mansfield that said, hey, I've got this really great group I want to link you up with since I'm in Boulder. This gal, Diana, is also with a group called Cand-Aid in Boulder. I think you guys have similar interests, similar passions, would love to get you two together just to talk through some ideas. Fast forward a 3-hour happy hour later, Diana and I realized that our boys have played football together, that we know all of the same people.
Oh my gosh.
We run in all of the same circles. So there was just a really strong connection there with daily lives and then professional lives, what we kind of do for our day jobs. And we had the opportunity as a department for the company that I work for to do a bike build with Cand-Aid. It was something that my group sponsored, my department sponsored, and just wanted to do it as like a team building activity. And
was this something that you just brought to the team? And how did that happen? You said, hey guys,
so
I've discovered this fantastic organization and they have this really cool program. Who's interested? How did that happen?
Yes. So I've been with the company for 15 years and I've had the same boss for 14. So
wow, congratulations.
Thank you. I am given a lot of freedom to pursue what my boss calls my 20%. So 80% is my day job. 20% is what keeps me showing up every day. And that would be being the philanthropic lead for our campus, which has 2,200 employees. It's also the co-chair for the campus council that runs all of the campus events and that sort of thing. And I also sit on our corporate side's Global Volunteer Engagement Council. So this is something that I'm heavily involved in.
That is amazing.
We are a company that walks the walk. I couldn't be prouder of the work we do in the healthcare field and behind the scenes. So when I got the opportunity to bring this to the table as a pilot program, my boss was all for it. He couldn't be any more supportive if he tried. So the next thing I knew, I'm used to doing all of the legwork, all of the logistics. And I had this amazing team in front of me who said, would you like this?
And that's Cand-Aid?
And that's Cand-Aid.
Yeah, they are. They do that. I've been on the receiving end of that and I've been amazed.
It's amazing from working with them logistically to their programs and what they offer, to the actual bike build and event, to going to the school and seeing the presentation at the assembly. I could not speak enough about the work that they do and the passion that they have and the people that they serve. So it was a great kickoff, which led me to want to do a campus-wide event with our 2,200 employees, which is something that we do every year during the summer, which is our company's focus on volunteerism. So getting our manufacturing people involved is something that I'm really passionate about, and that is 1,000 folks here in Boulder. So that's going to be the focus of this new and improved event that Diana and I have been working on for the past few weeks together.
Okay, so Diana, maybe this is a good time for you to jump in and tell us about what is the new and improved event of which we are speaking.
We hired a professional director of engagement a little over about a year and a half ago now, who had extensive work with corporations. And that's actually how we were first connected with Elizabeth's company, was through Sarah Hannafin, our director of engagement. So it's something that we always thought made sense because, again, there's corporations that have the budget and the desire to give back. And with our programs, I think what's nice is that it's sort of a turnkey program where we can bring our bike builds or our skateboard builds right to them, and they don't have to leave their offices if they don't want to. We do sometimes host programs offsite at a brewery or a winery, or the river cleanups, obviously, or rivers all around the country. We've worked with Ball Corporation for a long time. They've been a really great corporate partner. But yes, I would say this new model that we've tried to adapt makes it easy and seamless. Like Elizabeth was saying, we take care of all the logistics. So you've got somebody in a company that says, hey, we have the budget and we have the desire to give back. What do you have for me? And we have a menu, a Do-Goodery menu of options that they can choose from.
How have you and your organization pivoted during this time? You know, you guys have always been so creative with everything that you do and your marketing and your how you name things and how you promote things. And I'm just curious how you have, in the wake of all this, how have you been able to so quickly take a step back and pivot and then come up with the Do-Goodery at your doorstep pilot is what I believe we were talking about here, but correct me if I'm wrong there.
Yeah, that's perfect. It's actually interesting timing that we're working through this new model with Elizabeth and her company at the same time as launching this Do-Goodery at your doorstep, because we've realized, look, I'm lucky because I have a really creative and scrappy and hardworking team, and we just get on these Zoom meetings and we say, all right, so we still want to bring these programs to our people. We still want to be doing good, and we know that people are sitting in their homes, in their four walls, feeling like I'm healthy, I'm trying to follow the advice of the scientists and the health professionals, but I still feel good and I still want to give back and help others. And so we came up with this idea of Do-Goodery at your doorstep, which is essentially an opportunity for people who have the means, which I realize not everybody does. And so being sensitive to the fact that we're approaching 20% unemployment in the country, and there's a lot of really good people that don't know when their next paycheck is coming. But there are also a lot of people out there who still have their jobs, and we're not going out to dinner, and we're not going to see live music and things that we would normally spend some of our disposable income on. And so we have the means to give back and do good. And so we are packaging up our programs on a much smaller scale so that they can literally be delivered to your doorstep. So the 3 programs that we're offering would be, one of the things that we do is offer people the opportunity to come together and assemble art kits. They come in branded Candade bags, and then there's just about 12 different arts and craft items that get put in the bags. We encourage the people that are assembling them to write an inspirational message or decorate the bags with their own artwork, and then those are donated to children in foster care right in the community where they're assembled. Yeah, so the art kits, we have decided that we can actually connect with some senior citizens, and we've done this through 2 programs. One is a pen pal network, but this art kit assembling is, we provide all of the tools to them. They assemble the kits and write the most beautiful messages on the kits, and then we pick them up and we deliver them to a local foster care center. And we decided that that would be one of the programs that we could offer to people with the Do-Goodery at your doorstep. So you can order 24 or 48 art kits to assemble with your family. You can also order skateboards or bike kits to be built right in your home. And so we're hoping that that's really going to take off. It's obviously a much higher price point than our programs normally are, because shipping small quantities directly to doorsteps and having to provide all the tools to put the skateboards or the bikes together it's certainly not efficient and it's not cost effective, but we feel like we feel good that we're encouraging people and continuing our programs in some capacity right now.
How have you done this? Are there folks that you immediately started picking up the phone and calling? I know you have a board of directors. Did you pull them together? What are the kinds of things that you've been doing to come up with these ideas and then get those ideas, moving forward? And what kinds of resources have you had at your disposal as you've been going through this?
We do have a board that we always run our ideas by, but I think one of the reasons that maybe I don't want to say successful, but that we're seeing some success with these programs is that Candade is pretty non-traditional in general. We're not here's the one thing that we do and this is all that we do. We've always been very entrepreneurial in spirit, more of like a startup mentality. And so we're used to throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And our team was just passionate about continuing the work. And the whole premise of Candade is the belief that we all have the ability to give back and do good. And just because there's a pandemic doesn't mean that we don't still, really believe in that. And we found that people are really responding. And again, I'm concerned about the price point with the Do-Goodery at your doorstep, but I know there are people out there that have the money to do it and the desire. And then there are also corporations that may see what we do with Elizabeth's company and say, this is fantastic. We can do this as well. And we can keep our employees safe safe and at home, but still giving back.
I would love to dive into that a little bit because, Elizabeth, what was the response when I'm imagining that you had to go back to your company and say, hey, we're talking about shifting gears. Here's what this looks like. I know that I've been hearing stories from other people that corporate entities that often sponsor or put dollars toward either a big gala fundraiser or employee do-goodery events like this, they have stayed the course and they have said, no, we're going to continue to invest in this. Others have had to press pause. Talk to us a little bit about your organization's response and how that is coming to life.
So I have been given great support from our senior management team. My boss is an executive vice president, but even his boss's boss's boss has said to me, this is something that I have complete faith in you. If it can happen, you're the one to do it. If you're with the right team and you have what you need, go for it. If you don't have what you need, come back to the table. We'll get it for you.
Wow.
Our company has a very strong commitment to social responsibility, to maintaining good citizenship, and to engaging the employees.
And it sounds like they trust their employees to do the right thing, and they know that.
And empower them.
Empower them,
Here's what you need. Go forth.
And they know that you're going to work with everybody involved to make sure that this is done in a safe environment, as safe as we can create, in these unprecedented times, I'm assuming.
Correct. And I was thrilled to hear Diana talk about, some of the ideas that had pinged around in their board of directors meeting, that what would be the possibility of sending this to someone's doorstep. And in our case, we have a large manufacturing population. We run 24-hour shifts, 3 different shifts. It's very hard to implement social distancing on an assembly line. So the fact that we have put those measures into place because we are stocking OR rooms with instruments that save people's lives. We're essential workers. We can't stop. So we are still showing up. These are the people who are our frontline people, right? They're on the back end of the hospital room, but they're our frontline people. So this is an opportunity that we said, perfect. This is something that we can give to them and make this as streamlined as possible for them so they can still participate. They can still be engaged because they're the ones really, putting in the legwork, the lion's share for us right now.
That's amazing. I think it says so much about your organization that here you are, you guys, it sounds like, haven't skipped a beat, and in fact are maybe working even harder because you are on the front lines of healthcare. And I'm imagining if you're manufacturing, you may have even shifted gears on what you're manufacturing. So the fact that your company is still supporting Do-Goodery with everything else going on, what do you think that says about, a lot of times people have maybe a negative idea about corporate and big companies, and then we've heard a lot of stuff about corporations taking, PPP funds, but what do you think this says?
So I have always been the biggest cheerleader for the company that I work for. I cannot tell you the amount of pride and passion I have for this role that I have created, for this opportunity that I have been given. This company walks the walk. They practice what they preach. They support us. They encourage us. They empower us. There are no failures. There are no mismarks. There's only learning opportunities. It has been a great source of professional and personal growth for me in this role. And they would have to kick me out screaming. I wouldn't go anywhere. I wouldn't leave for all the world because I'm not a quote unquote corporate girl. But now I work for a company of 90,000 plus employees globally.
Wow.
And I think, given that work structure, when you're on calls day in and day out with people in different hemispheres, you have to start thinking outside the box. So when you have the opportunity to do something good with a group like Diana's and Cand-Aid, who's already outside the box, it's amazing what you can come up with.
No kidding. Diana, I mean, how fortunate are you to have been introduced to Elizabeth and her organization? Is this the kinds of passion and, corporate support that you find out there in general? And, is that kind of holding true across the country in terms of your corporate sponsorships and participation? Or how is that looking for you?
Well, I would say Elizabeth is one in a million. I mean, she is the ideal corporate partner, and literally our team, every time we get off a call with her, we're just sending group texts like, she is our favorite, she is amazing, she's going to get it done. And I think your listeners can probably hear the enthusiasm in her voice. It's like, like I said, any obstacle that comes up, we're just like, all right, how are we going to adapt to this one? How do we make it still work? And so this skateboard program through our Treads and Trails program was initially going to already be a big endeavor and undertaking, with three days of building with the production team. And now we are actually sending individual kits home with the folks that work on the production line. So we're now figuring out, okay, so we're going to get a tote bag that has the skateboard deck, the trucks, the wheels, the hardware, the grip tape, everything. And then it's just super easy for her employees to come in and grab their kit, take it home. Maybe they build the board with their family. We're putting together an instructional video that they'll have access to. So we're just kind of, using their employees as a guinea pig for this program, but we couldn't ask for better partners because they're so forgiving and they're so understanding. And we realize this is our new reality, and it's unfortunately probably
right. And it doesn't have to maybe go perfectly, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. I was saying earlier, let's set the bar low, but people have nothing to compare it to, right? And I think given our success as a team in past campus-wide events, there is a level of trust that the end result's going to be the same. These kiddos from these Title I schools are going to get the opportunity to spend some time outdoors on a brand new skateboard with a brand new helmet and get off their screens and care for their bodies and, have these experiences that right now, I mean, these kids might be facing a really uncertain summer.
Well, that was one of my questions. How do you get these to these kids? It seems like now more than ever, these kids, they're at home and maybe they don't have a skateboard or a bike or really, now is the ideal time for them to have this kind of an opportunity. How is that going to work? Are you having to rethink how you get the bikes and the skateboards into the hands of these kids, Diana?
Yes, because typically we would do it in a big, giant surprise assembly. And now schools aren't even meeting. So we're going to have to really figure out, I know, for example, my children this week and next week are having to drive by their schools and at specific scheduled times to get the things from their locker, and they're not even entering the school. So we're going to have to get creative and figure out, 1,500 skateboards is a lot of skateboards to coordinate getting to kids, but we'll figure it out. And luckily, again, with Elizabeth and her team, I know that they won't be expecting perfection, but with the amount of conversations and the creative thinkers we have on both our teams, we'll figure something out that works well.
That's awesome. Will you tell me how you came up with the term do-goodery? Because I love this word and I figure, is it trademarked? Is this something that you guys came up with? And tell us how that came about.
It is something we came up with. It's actually one of my board members. I'll give Chad Malis and Turn It Up Media a little shout out. Chad.
Go Chad.
He was famous for making up terms, and he just said, "You're such a do-gooder," or something like that. And we ran with it because, again, Candide is pretty atypical, and we're not buttoned up and we're not all corporate, but I think that there's a do-gooder in all of us, and people understand, people power do-goodery. They get it. They understand what that means, I think.
And then you have corporate do-gooders like Elizabeth. Do you have a t-shirt with do-gooder on it, Elizabeth?
So, do you know what my t-shirt says?
What?
Volunteer. That's what my t-shirt says. I think we could use a little more creative juice on our end.
I bet you the very creative folks at Candide could help you in that.
Yes, I'm all about the bling and the flash. We could use something better. Yeah, absolutely.
Diana, how many do-gooders do you have out there in your volunteer ranks and otherwise?
Well, since we started back in September of 2013, so we're not quite 7 years old, but to be honest, I don't know how many we have in our database. We've got, I want to say 25,000, 30,000 folks that have come out and helped with river cleanups or skateboard builds or bike builds. We work with about 20 different nationally touring musicians on our tunes program. So there's a lot of folks out there.
That's amazing. Elizabeth, I imagine that you've been doing this for a long time with your company. So you've probably seen a lot of different models. How does Cand-Aid compare in that regard?
Top notch. Absolutely top notch. So I think, when I walk away from these large events, it's sort of like when you invite everyone over to your house for the holidays for dinner. And at the end of dinner, when it's all over and the dishes are done, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to do that again. And then, around October, you're like, don't let me do that again. Because there's so much work involved. And, so it's, from my perspective, it's not just, bringing this in and having the warm, fuzzy feeling. It's also like the logistics of it. We've got manufacturing people. We are literally planning this into our production numbers for them to be off the line for an hour because they are literally paid by the minute. That's how it works in manufacturing. It's just a completely unique environment. So to be able to work through those things, there's a lot of moving parts. And trust me, if the ball gets dropped, guess who hears about it?
Is it you? Is it your head on the block?
That's me. So those are things that I worry about. So, and in that sort of type A personality trait that I have, it takes a lot on me. It takes a lot out of me. I put a lot of expectations on my team and the people who show up. And I've walked away from events saying, I loved their mission, but can't work through that process again. And with Cand-Aid, I literally walked away from that thinking, I don't want anybody to think that great job was a reflection of anything I said or did, because it was all them. It was all the work they put into the front end and the back end. And when Sarah and Diana said to me, we're good. You're all set. A couple calls, you're all set. This is it. This is it. I was like, seriously not.
You're like, no.
But seriously so. They were top notch and a pleasure to work with, an absolute pleasure to work with.
Okay, so remind us again. So the first thing that you guys did together was when?
Back in October, last October, we did a bike build.
Got it.
Together.
And how many bikes at that time?
100, Diana?
I think it was. Yeah, I'd have to check back, but between 75 and 100. And we did it at Oscar Blues Brewery.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. And then those bikes went to a Title I school in Boulder or Denver, or where are we talking?
In Longmont.
Longmont. Awesome. Mm-hmm. And so then the skateboard build, you're saying that is 1,500. Is that right?
It is. Yes.
That is amazing. And so you don't yet have your school partner. That's part of what you'll be working out.
Yeah. Originally this was supposed to happen this month in May, and then everything came to a halt. So we're, now our timing is looking like the end of July, when now it's going to be probably 12 days that we'll be, arriving at the company, setting everything up, staging it, making it super simple for those production folks to grab their kit, bring them home. And then within a week to 10 days, they'll bring the assembled boards back. We'll quality control them all, and then we'll take them to distribute to the kids.
Got it. Okay. That's amazing. That's a big job.
We're so excited. I mean, honestly, we've been saying that this is really a great learning experience for all of us, because like it or not, this may be the wave of the future for the next 12 to 18 months. But it would be really nice to be able to say to a large corporation, hey, we've got it figured out for you. Look what we've did with this company. And we're trying to document the whole thing and condense it down to a nice digestible video showing, A to Z. Here's our supply chain. Here's us staging it at the warehouse. Here's the production workers getting their kits, and then showing the kids actually receiving the skateboards at the end.
That's amazing. And it sounds like this is, from everything that Elizabeth has described, this has been what you're all about from the beginning and how you distinguish yourselves from maybe other do-goodery organizations is being creative, being agile and quick on your feet and very creative around not only your events, but when things, maybe obstacles get in your way, figuring that out quickly. What is your personal philosophy in terms of making everything so turnkey and easy for folks to do good and to work with you and want to continue working with you?
I think the barrier to entry has to be extremely low. It needs to be smooth. It needs to be fun. Once people come to a Candade event, typically, once we get them in the doors or out to the river, they're hooked afterwards because it is organized. It's lucky for me. I have some very type A, very organized women on my team. Sarah Levitt is our operations and logistics and program director, and she is just unbelievably organized and so good at her job that she does make it seem easy. Nobody realizes that she's running around and, dotting the I's and crossing the T's for months before the program. But when these volunteers or these employees of corporations show up, it's just dialed and seamless. And so it's easy for them. They have a great time. They see their tangible results at the end of the 2 hours or 4 hours, or in this case, 2 weeks, and they get to join us. Typically, we invite all the people that helped build the skateboards or bikes to come with us to the surprise assembly, and that's really the magical moment, is when those kids realize that they're going home with a brand new bike and helmet or skateboard and helmet. They lose their minds, and it's pretty joyful.
I've seen some of those videos, and those are like literally, I don't know these people. I wasn't there, but I felt like I was there, and I wanted to cry because these kids were so excited to get a new bike. That's I haven't seen the actual skateboard giveaways, but I imagine it's the same kind of response that you see there.
It is. And honestly, when Elizabeth and I were talking about it, whether or not the Treads and Trails program aligned with their company philosophy and mission, and we talked about the fact that really the problem that we're addressing with Treads and Trails is that children spend 7 hours on average of screen time a day. And right now, with all the online learning, it's even more. And only 1 in 5 kids get the daily recommended exercise or active play. So this is our way to tackle that problem and encourage kids to opt outside and be active. So Elizabeth and I talked through it, and she said, this is exactly what we're all about, keeping kids healthy and active. And so it was a nice alignment for us.
And now it's even more important with what you just described. I was reading something just yesterday about kids' screen time and Gen Z and the impact that all of this is going to have on them, because, it's like we don't know what that is going to be, but certainly I think we're all experiencing being less active, even as we've been, quarantined in our homes. And maybe in Colorado, you guys are still getting out more than the rest of us, because you guys always lead the way anyway. But, I think a lot of times, even if kids were used to going to their local community center, and playing basketball or whatever the case may be, those things aren't even open to them right now. So awesome work you guys are doing. What has been the hardest part of this whole COVID pivot for you both, Diana and Elizabeth, professionally and personally? Because I do think that we all as humans are experiencing hardships as well as a lot of victories. So while on the one hand, maybe us, working parents are juggling a whole lot of things, and sometimes we might want to send our kids off to never return, we also are finding ways that this is making us closer and giving us glimpses into their lives that we didn't have before. And I'm just curious how you guys are experiencing this professionally and personally.
I would say the hardest thing for me, both professionally and personally, is I was much more fast paced. I was on airplanes. I was flying across the country to meet with people to implement programs in different places. And then, I think my last trip was to LA in early March, and now I've just been home and not seeing my team face to face. We do a lot of these Zoom calls and weekly catch ups, but we're a small team and we thrive off of each other, and we're also good friends outside of the office. So that's been difficult to not come together. And I think, again, humans are wired to connect, and I'm a hugger and I can't hug people when I see them. And so that's been challenging professionally and personally. But there is, you're always looking for the bright side and the silver lining, and the slowdown has been nice, and staying in my jammies until noon working from home. Luckily, I like my home.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, what about for you?
I mean, and Diana, you and I have talked about this offline as well. Diana and I are very similar in the fact that I am a people person. I have 2 middle schoolers in the house. So if I want
Bless your heart.
if I want to feel appreciated or valued, I leave home and I go to the office and I work with my amazing team. And, you know, I am given such freedom to do what I do and to play the role that I play in the office. So I do miss that. I am also from the South, and I could talk to a lamppost. So
where are you from?
I am from Macon, Georgia.
I'm going there tomorrow to visit one of my best friends.
I told you our college friend lives there.
Oh,
I love Macon, Georgia.
It's a good spot.
I miss the food. I miss the people, but I don't miss some of the things going on in the South
humidity
right
and heat.
Yeah.
About that.
There's the humidity and there's all that.
Yeah.
But I think for me, connecting with my folks, my people, my girls, my tribe, my mom tribe has been really, really hard for me. My children don't want me to hug them anymore, and I find that very difficult. I'm also a toucher. I'm a toucher. So now I have found that since I can't touch or hug, I have this weird winking thing going on. I think
what are you doing? Like, describe that for our listeners, what that must look like.
That at the end of a conference call with some VPs, maybe from another culture that aren't winkers, I wink like it's an exclamation point and really just notice my boss like shrinking in the back.
So it's like one of those winks like you might give someone if you're like, hey, you know, kind of
like, more like, hey, great job. Like, are you okay?
Like a really overpronounced wink.
Yeah.
Are you a good winker? Because I'm just not very talented at winking. But recently I learned that if I can do it better with my left eye for some reason.
Me too.
I'm a left eye winker, a non-dominant eye winker.
Do you do like a little mouth thing with it?
I don't know, because now I'm staring at myself on the Zoom call, so I have no idea.
Well, that's great. I haven't even thought about winking at people as a way to get around the no touching or hugging thing.
Well, and it's also
give it a go, Christy.
I'm going to.
We now have, or in Boulder County, where Diana and I are, we now have mask requirements. So if you are somewhere where social distancing is not possible, you have to wear a mask. So at the end of the day, when some people in my family would say, please stop talking to the woman at the grocery store because she really doesn't want to know your life story, which I think is false. But I would smile at you, but I have a mask on and you can't even see that I'm smiling at you. And
hence the wink.
That becomes part of like the human interaction that I will just curl up into a ball and wither away without. So, you know, I'm a very self-aware winker, apparently. So try to use it in as much non-creepy methods as possible.
I love it.
Okay.
I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try to use that and work on my winking skills. I think some of our listeners might even be able to take this home with them as well. Wow. It's going to be a key takeaway. The kinds of things we can do. Diana, through Candade and her national reach, can maybe spread this this winking thing. And Diana, you're still working on these programs nationally. Is that right?
Yes. Okay. Yes. We're hoping that the Do-Goodery at your doorstep just takes off.
So anybody, anywhere, they can contact you, they can sign up, and you can make this happen for them.
Absolutely. And we are actually working towards some in-person river cleanup and bike build mid-December, I don't know what I'm talking about, mid-June in Denver, a river cleanup and a bike build with all the social distancing precautions in place. We've got Candade branded masks. We're going to have hand washing stations, etc. So we're trying to do that as well.
That's awesome. How do people get in touch with you? How do they find out more? How do they sign up?
They just go to the Candade website, which is candaid.org. You can sign up to be a volunteer. You can sign up to get the newsletter. You can see a list of upcoming events. There's a link to the Pen Pal Network if people like the good old-fashioned letter writing right now. And there's also a link right to Do-Goodery at your doorstep.
That's awesome. And Elizabeth, before we sign off with this burning question that I like to end with, do you have anything else that you want to talk about or add? Or if people wanted to learn more, I don't know if there's a way that you could share your story with them. Maybe there could be like a testimonial that Candid adds to their website from you or something. Maybe you're already doing that. What do I know?
Absolutely. No.
We aren't, but we need to.
I think one thing right now, I grew up, my grandmother raised me in South Georgia, and there was always someone to help. There was always someone that needed something more than we did. So whatever we were doing, we would go on vacation and I would be the little girl with her grandmother cleaning up the beach instead of playing in the sand at 5 o'clock in the morning. So it's just a life of service is something I was raised with. It's just inside of me. And I think right now is a time when people feel so overwhelmed by everything that's happening and the state of things and all of the unknowns, that if you can find one tangible thing to put your hands on and improve the life of someone else in real time, you should spare no expense to do that. It's just something that I think is so important. And we can do all of the virtual drives and Amazon wish lists, and money raising and that sort of stuff, because we are also very fortunate to be able to work from home and to be able to keep our jobs and to not have to worry about our insurance right now. I want to be able to take all of that and push it forward in the universe. So to be able to have a program like this and somebody on the other end who says, I get your need to do that for yourself and for your employees, it's over the top.
That is so beautiful and so well said.
Oh, thank you.
What was your grandmother's name?
Dorothy.
Oh, Dot. Did anyone call her Dot?
Dottie.
Oh, love that. But that's great. And Diana, I don't know if that's also, part of your mission is hopefully through this work that you're doing, you're raising up the next generation of do-gooders. I would imagine that at least some of those kids that are on the receiving end of all the goodness that you're putting out there, they remember that, and they are probably going to be people that give back in the future because of maybe they were on the receiving end one day.
We've actually talked about that, like as a happy accident, is that we really are creating the unlikely philanthropist, whether it's with our Tunes ambassadors that we work with and they're musicians and they're in a sort of self-obsessed role, trying self-promotion, out touring on the daily grind. And they love going into the schools and working with the kids and giving the instruments. And they probably never envisioned themselves as philanthropists or having the ability to give back.
No doubt. Even more important in these times, I think. That is so great. Thank you for sharing your stories with us, ladies. And thank you for your time today. And I really appreciate everything that you're doing, both of you. And I'm so glad, Elizabeth, that there are companies out there like yours that really believe in doing good and supporting their employees to do good and walking the walk, as you say, putting their money where their mouths are. That's fantastic. Gives us all hope. So before we sign off, I do like to end the How It's Done podcast with what I call a burning question. And today I did tee you guys up earlier with the question, and I wanted to put this one out there because we are all, we can't go to our favorite restaurants anymore right now. We can't go and do the things that we want to do. But if you could have dinner with someone whom you most admire, whether living or dead or famous or not, who would that be and why? And then also, where would you go to dinner? Elizabeth?
Go, Elizabeth.
So I had to think about this for all of 1.1 seconds. And my answer is unapologetically Glennon Doyle. She is an amazing writer. She is an activist. She is a mom. She is a quote unquote GD cheetah. And if you've read her new book, you know what that means. If you haven't, Go
I
buy
haven't. I'm going to have to read it.
It's called Untamed, and it will change your life. And you're welcome.
Where would you guys? Okay, wait. Does she live in Colorado?
She lives in Naples, Florida, and I would choose to have dinner with her at her home. And the reason why is because she writes out of her closet.
Wait a minute. You're in your
Yes.
closet right now.
Where you have me right now channeling my inner Glennon Doyle.
Glennon Doyle.
Yes.
I love that. And also, just a little background. You were probably planning to be in your closet, but I did mention, since we were doing the taping of this podcast, I had heard an NPR reporter say that she was actually taping an episode from her closet. So I had suggested, if you didn't have a quiet place, you could go to your closet. But maybe through Glennon Doyle, you were already going to be in your closet.
I was not, because she has shown her closet on, in Instagram and stuff like that. And I'm like, how does she do that? And now I am finding new joy in this closet right now.
This is fantastic. I hope you get to have dinner with her.
So thank you for that.
Diana, who would you have dinner with, and where and why?
I have two, Christy. It was hard for me. One, my initial was Michelle Obama, because for a lot of the same reasons that Elizabeth mentioned, Glennon, I just have the utmost respect for her. I think she's a complete, authentic, badass, love everything about her. And my other, though, and I think now more than ever with his passing, would be a John Prine, because I've always been a fan of his music, and the fact that he passed away during this pandemic. I always loved his songwriting. I loved his story, but then seeing the outpouring from all the other musicians that I love and admire, and hearing the type of person that he actually was, I would absolutely love to sit down with him and have a beer. And I would go to a restaurant in Boulder called Oak. They have one of my favorite kale salads on the planet, and they have an amazing wine list and great service.
Nice.
Diana, I am going to hug your neck so hard.
You're going to have to wink at her.
Big dramatic winks happening right now.
I just ordered a girlfriend of mine back in Atlanta. Her wife, Trish, is an amazing, gorgeous painter. And for Mother's Day, I ordered one of Trish's paintings, and it's of roses. And there are John Prine lyrics written in the back.
Oh.
The post office has lost that painting, and we are trying to retrieve it now.
No.
But once I get it, I'm going to send you a picture of it, because
Awesome.
when I saw it, it really spoke to me. So I think you'll love it.
Amazing.
That is amazing. I hope you get that painting.
I will, and I hope you edit that out. Sorry.
I may or may not.
I like the hug your neck part. I think that should stay in.
Yes. Then we get a hug your neck and a bless your heart. So
Well,
all in the same
it depends on
podcast.
how I say bless your heart. You may or may not want that. Because it has two meanings, we all know.
Yes. Yes, it
Yeah.
does. Bless your heart. That's
Bless.
one meaning.
That is. Bless your heart is the other one.
Well, ladies, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your stories during this crazy time, that through the work that you and your companies are doing, you're helping bring back some normalcy and make sure that the Do-Goodery continues. Thank you for allowing us a glimpse into your worlds and into your mission. And thank you for the opportunity for all of us to do good in the world. I think it's so meaningful, and just good luck with everything. And please be safe and be well, and good luck with the skateboard build. Will you let us know how that goes?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. This was super fun.
Thank you.
That's it for now. Thanks so much for listening. We're looking forward to keeping great conversations coming your way as we grow this podcast. There's even more great content from our conversations on our blog. Be sure to check it out at growwithfuoco.com. That's grow with Fuoco, Fuoco.com. Stay tuned until next time, and no matter what, stay curious.